Welcome to Wendigo Tales. I hope you enjoy. Part 2. Contact. Then it let out an inhuman, guttural scream, one that I wish I could forget. Then something else moved inside the chamber. Not just one, there was multiple. Dark, fast, and animal-like. Lucas was the first to go. The camera rig spun wildly as he was pulled into the shadows, screaming until it was cut off by a sickening wet crunch. His camera landed on its side, red light still recording in the dark. Kessler raised his lead further and fired. A beam of burning blue plasma tore through the dark, revealing the creature mid-lunge. What I saw in that moment is seared into my memory. A humanoid frame, but elongated, twisted, skin translucent, pulsing with that same blue glow from the vats. Its jaw unhinged like a serpent. No eyes, just black holes in a melted face, covered with tumours. The beam of plasma grazed its side, singeing its skin, but continued through the air, showing no pain. We all watched in horror as it latched onto Kessler and ripped into his neck. We all turned and ran. Hendrix covered the rear. I don't know what happened to him for sure, but I can only guess. As 1 second he was firing his gun, then the next the hall behind us went dark, and then we heard the screaming. His voice. Then a wet tearing. We made it to the elevator, but it was dead. We tried to reroute the emergency override. Nothing worked. "We're locked down," she cried. "It must have been NATO. They sealed us in." But Trav pointed out a maintenance shaft we had all missed. We opened the door, which revealed a maintenance ladder, ancient and narrow. We climbed. That's all we could do. Ramirez slipped halfway up, his leg slipping on a twisted rung. Something rushed up the shaft. I saw claws, too many, and then heard his scream as he was dragged back down, then followed by a loud wet crunch that echoed around us. We quickened our pace. We eventually reached level 3 and barred the shaft door. Ray's was sobbing, clutching her hand where she appeared to have cut herself. "What were they doing down there?" she whispered through her tears. Al-Said answered grimly. "They were trying to create gods, a superior race. Now, we need to keep moving. I'll keep watch, you guys find us a way out." The rest was a blur. I remember we searched level 3 until we found another maintenance door, which led up to level 2. We continued through and up another maintenance shaft until eventually we got to level 0. By the time we got there, we found that the entrance to the bunker was sealed from the outside. Petrov then led us back to the command room, hoping to signal the outside. We searched the room for anything we could use to help fix the radios. Petrov began messing with a large radio off in the corner, while Wu helped Ray's bandage a hand. That's when I found the journal, hidden in a drawer beneath the lead scientist's desk. The name on the cover was Dr. Yosef Mengele. His entries were monstrous, cold, insane. He was as inhuman as the monsters he had created, obsessed with creating a superior being that could withstand any environment, regenerate any injury, and operate as superhuman reflexes. He referred to the subjects as Prüfsteine, test bodies. Most were pulled from concentration camps. Many were intentionally mutated using a compound referred to only as Blaues Erwachen, the Blue Awakening. They were injected, bathed, and even force-fed the serum. He recorded, only 3% survive phase 1, but those that do become something divine. He believed that they were the stepping stones in the evolution for the perfect human being, to fine-tune the serum for the genetically superior, the first step in living weapons for the Fourth Reich, to rise again from the ice when the time was right. I closed the journal. My hands were shaking. This man was more monstrous than the history books made us believe. Outside the room, a blue light flickered briefly, which illuminated the communal space. Then something moved. A faint clicking sound, like an insect, echoed throughout the room as we all froze in terror. They must have got outside. We all turned off our lights in unison. There was only 4 of us left. Reyes, Wu, Petrov, and me. Petrov then creeped to the door and slowly inched it closed. Outside, the creatures moved through the corridor and the other rooms. You could hear them if you were quiet enough. Slick footsteps across metal, soft scratching against walls, the occasional deep inhalation like something testing the air for our scent. Every few minutes, we heard them screaming again. Not like animals, but like men, as if using a primal form of communication. Wu tried to quietly reboot the emergency uplink system. She whispered, "If we can just boost the signal, someone might still hear us." Petrov paced, gripping his sidearm and muttering in Russian. He looked at me and said, "They weren't just building weapons, they were building kings, hierarchies. Some of them were made to lead the others." I didn't ask how he knew. I already suspected he hadn't been sent here just as an engineer. He'd known too much from the start. Ray sat curled near the corner, whispering prayers into her sleeve. I noticed her fingers were stained with something slick and black. I asked her if she was hurt. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "But when I touched the fluid in the pod, it felt warm, and it moved, like it knew I was there." Whilst I was still desperately trying to find anything that could get the radios up, I found more logs, typed documents buried in a filing cabinet. Mengele had overseen early stage trials, but the later entries were signed by someone else, Dr. von Kluger, Chief Overseer, Eisengut Directive. It stated that the blue liquid was alive. He didn't just mutate them, it merged with them. Their cells were symbiotic hosts. That's why some were still glowing from the inside. They weren't just creatures, they were vessels to spread it further. Kruger wasn't trying to create soldiers. He was building a new species to replace mankind entirely. One passage burnt into my memory. Stage 4 specimens are no longer affected by cold, pain, or traditional neural inhibitors. They exhibit primitive loyalty to the source compound, cluster behaviour around high concentrations, an increasingly advanced problem-solving capacity. Language re-emerging. Self-awareness suspected. That last line terrified me. Language re-emerging, self-awareness suspected. Then came the breach. A sound like tearing metal echoed from the room next to us. Then a loud thump as something landed on the floor, which was then followed by a blast of air and a roar that shook the walls. The temperature plummeted. "They've found the secondary duct access," Wu said. We had minutes, maybe less. Petrov pulled a satchel of thermite charges from his bag. "I'll blow the hallway. It'll draw their attention and act as a distraction." "I'll go with you," I said. "Niet," he snapped. "You need to get those files out. The world needs to know what was under here." He handed me the journal and a data drive from his pocket. "You see anything glowing?" he added, grimacing. "You run the other way." Petrov opened the door ajar and squeezed through to set off alone into the corridor, laying the charges. A minute later, the gaps around the door lit up white hot, followed by a thunderous blast that shook the walls and dislodged ceiling panels. The smoke was still clearing when the door began to bulge inward. What we could hear was ringing from the explosion, but we knew it was something ramming the door. Without wasting any time, Wu led us to an old ventilation shaft behind a large filing cabinet, something she later said she found looking through some papers. We crawled inside just as the door exploded open behind us. I looked back and saw one of the creatures enter the room. It wasn't like the other one we saw. It was tall, pale blue veins glowing beneath its partially translucent white skin, eyes black and reflective, like obsidian mirrors. Its ribs expanded as it sniffed the air. It was trying to find us. Then it shrieked, a terrible modulated sound like metal being tortured. We crawled upwards. The shaft twisted upward, tight and corroded. Wu was in front, Reyes was behind me. Halfway up, something echoed below us. It was a wet chittering sound. "They're in the vents," Reyes whispered. We moved faster. Wu reached a junction point and pushed up into a maintenance chamber. As I was helping Reyes through the hatch, I felt her jerk back violently. A long black clawed hand had wrapped around her ankle, yanking her downward. I grabbed her arms, pulling with everything I had. But the thing, it was stronger. Her eyes met mine. "Don't let go," she whispered. "Please." I nodded while straining, whilst Wu held the hatch open. She then suddenly slipped from my grip as she was yanked violently downwards. She bashed her head on the opposite side of the hatch as she was pulled back and vanished into the dark, screaming. Wu sealed the hatch quickly, and then we ran. We continued through winding dark tunnels and made it to the surface a few hours later. We exited the maintenance shaft and into a cave that connected to the surface. The air outside felt like fire after the stable temperatures down below. Once we exited, we collapsed into the snow, overwhelmed by exhaustion. We were two shadows crawling across the ice when we saw the faint orange glow of a fire. A small Inuit camp, locals travelling through the region. They saw us. They ran towards us with blankets, speaking fast in Greenlandic. We passed out in their arms. I stayed conscious just long enough to hear one of the elders say something in English. I'll never forget it. The blue lights have returned. The old gods beneath the glacier have awakened. It's been 3 days since we were found. Wu didn't make it. Her organs apparently failed within hours of being rescued. Apparently the autopsy was inconclusive. However, the official story was hypothermia. But I know the truth. I remember seeing those dark flecks floating in her eyes. I dread to think what was on sub-level 5. As I write this from a hospital bed, something is happening to me. My veins, they're glowing faintly blue in the dark. When I look in the mirror, I see those same dark flecks swirling in my eyes, like ash in the wind. I haven't slept in 2 nights. I don't feel tired or fatigued, but I can hear them, somewhere beneath the ice, calling. They're calling for me.